Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to CarMiZa. This is going to be Trunk Details Part 20. Not much progress lately with the BMW, folks. I can make excuses, but at the end of the day, I have not put time into the car recently. My buddy Joe, shout out to Joe in New York, texted me this morning and said, any progress on the BMW? And my short answer was no. So I really need to roll up my sleeves and get to work on this. The last thing I ran into with the install is the back of the C1 changers are hitting what I'm calling the shock tower covers back here, the aluminum curved pieces. I had people over, if you've been watching the channel, for the expo here in town that Brian Schmidt put on. And when people came over, I wanted them to see the trunk, so I pulled the backs of the changers off. There's basically just a panel that removes. It's about 1 inch thick, and that allowed me to fit the changers. So, as you know too, I've been talking about doing these silly side panels forever. I got to get on those, but in my fashion, I don't go to the next part until I've taken care of, done everything I can up to this point. So I certainly don't want to leave the issue with the changers. So, in this video, I am going to solve that. I don't know how I'm going to do it yet, but this is probably part of the reason why I've been delayed working on it. I'm stuck, right? So as I mentioned with the build, I want you guys to see everything, the good, the bad, the ugly. So this is one of those things. I have not been motivated to work on the car. I'm loving the way it's coming out, but I'm just kind of stuck. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and remove the pull floor. I'll take these side panel bases out. I'll take the whole Milbrute piece out. I'll take the P1 and X1 out and just have the changers with the one Zapco, and then kind of get an idea as to how I'm going to solve the problem of these hitting. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so I've got everything removed that I needed to remove. And as you can see, I just took a blue Sharpie and marked a couple of places on the shock tower covers where the changer was hitting. On this side, I've removed the shock tower cover. I had to pull off the end link for the one Zapco to be able to get the cover off. Those shock tower covers, I'm thinking once I put them in for the final time, they'll be able to come out. They're kind of a pain, but they're not going to be coming in and out very often. There's really nothing that's going to be behind there. Now, let me show you the changer on the bench. Okay, so here is the changer from the passenger side. And again, if you've been following along, you know that I built this piece of 1/8 inch aluminum that basically acts as kind of the bracket to hold it. This changer is just a mock-up. In fact, it's hollow. Just for weight savings and to be able to do the mock-up. You can see this one's got a pretty big scratch on it. I have several of these, and I've got a couple of more that are pristine. So this is the back of the changer on these C1s. These things are really heavy duty. So this is the part that's hitting. So when it's in the car, it would basically hit right here. So now I got to figure out, after building this monstrosity, right? And this has got the brackets in the back. How am I going to go through and modify this? Also considering the way I'm going to upholster it, and do it in such a way where I don't jeopardize the structural integrity here, but I need to kind of notch this out, if you will. Just kind of imagine you were just taking a big saw and chopping this piece out, and be able to do that without, again, ruining the structural integrity. I don't want to have to redo those straps. There is a lot of drilling there, so hopefully I can figure out something. So I'm gonna brainstorm and continue working on this. Okay, while I work for kind of working on a solution here, I also need to make sure the changer itself was gonna fit okay with the shock tower itself. And you can see it's kind of tough to see at this angle, but there's plenty of room. There's 2 or 3 inches in between the back of the changer and the shock tower. And this is with the changer cover on the back of the cover. I just have a couple of screws. Again, it's all machine hardware, just a couple of screws there holding the hollow changer in place. So that part I know I'm okay with. Now I have to try to figure out how I'm going to modify the shock tower cover. At this point, I'm gonna kind of dig into this panel. So what I've done, if you notice, I've taken off the little pocket I made for the one Zapco. And I'm going to take off these 3 panels, these 3 pieces of flat bar. Notice I've numbered them. That way I can replicate, put it all back together without a problem. I'll take those off, and then I think I may have an idea what I'm going to do on the back side of this strap and how I'm going to notch it. So we'll continue on. Okay, got this piece stripped down. And you might be thinking too, am I kicking myself for building this thing with all these straps and it took forever to build and now I have to modify it? Am I mad at myself for the way I designed it? And the answer is no, because I still have the ability to go in and modify it. If anything, it is in some ways easier to do that. It's not one whole complete thing I've got to cut out and try to notch something else back in. So I'm perfectly fine with that. So now what I'm thinking is, I think what I'll end up doing, these 2 straps are the only straps in question because the changer only hangs down to about the bottom of this strap. So these 2 are fine. These I'm probably just gonna cut, maybe even flush here, and then I'll run a new piece of strap between this nut and this nut that is curved on the back side here. And then I will take these pieces and I will cut those. This is where the changer, the bottom of the changer goes. And I'll have to allow for about a 1/2 inch for carpet, and I want to have clearance and all that. So I'll cut all 3 of these like that, put them back in, and then they're going to kind of notch in much like the area it is for the 1 Zapco. That's kind of what I'm thinking, but I'm going to play around with it and give it some more thought and see if that's the direction I go. All right, I think the first thing I need to do is make it so the changer fits, and then worry about rebuilding the back side of this thing. So no turning back now. As you can see, I trimmed these straps right here. There's the offcuts right there. And this, at this point, the changer should fit. I'll put it back in the car and double check. What's cool is that this thing is, even with just the 2 straps, without the other pieces in there, it's still very, very solid. Again, call me crazy for over engineering, but I'm able to do the modifications I need to do. And also, you might think, well, you should have caught this, you should have seen this coming with the changers. As you guys know, if you've been following along, I do everything I can to pre-plan, lay things out, but I think this build, there's a whole bunch of things in this area of the car. It's very sophisticated, and it would have been really difficult to see this coming. So I'm not too worried about it. I'll get it fixed. So, all right, let's continue on. Sorry, one other quick thing. I know I like showing the work, and I didn't show this, but I'm really eager to come up with a solution here. So when I do the other side, I'll show you the work. I just used a jigsaw to cut this, to trim these 4 cuts without taking anything apart. So it was pretty easy. All right, let's continue on. All right, the changer fits. The back is on the changer, as you can see, and I got it to fit. Now I have to fabricate, again, modify the rest of it to fit in there. If you notice from this panel to here, the gap right there is a 1/2 inch, but here it's a little bit bigger. So what I'll do is when I take these pieces and cut them, I'm going to cut them so that there's a 1/2 inch between the bottom of the changer and the top of these 3 pieces, but this one I'll actually slice so I have a consistent 1/2 inch gap all the way around, so that when that's all done and upholstered, there's the carpet's roughly 1/8 or so to 1/4, so I'll have a small but nice consistent gap there. One of the other things I've considered too, on the changers, on either side of the changer, there is, on one side it's optical and the other side it's the Unilink. So I need to integrate getting the cable into the side of the changer as well. So that'll be a part of this kind of a reconstructive design. But feeling good about this. Is the first step is get it to fit. Now I need to make it look pretty. So, all right, let's continue on. Shock tower covers back out of the car. I marked this represents the bottom of the changer, and again I want a 1/2 inch gap, so I measured a 1/2 inch there, and then I'm going to take my 3 pieces, and I've already done this on this one, put it in place where it was previously and mark it, and then I'll do the same for the other 2. And again on this one I'm going to slice it, and then that should get this piece kind of restored back into place. All right, I trimmed this with a jigsaw, and again, even taking the care to make sure it is very square. So now this is number one. I'll go ahead and bolt this one back into place. And again, I'll bring you along for the cuts on the driver's side. Okay, all three pieces are trimmed, and I realized when I determined how much I needed to trim off this one, I'm going to go through the old holes. So that's not good enough. It's not precision. I can do better. So I'm going to put this in the car, mock it up, and just make sure my clearances are good and everything is good. I thought about that as I was cutting this. I said, well, you're going to see these cut, the old holes. I'm going to put it in the car, do a final mock up as far as this, this area goes. Make sure that looks good, and then I'll cut a new piece of aluminum. I don't have any more 1-inch. I thought I had more, but I bought about a mile of it, but apparently, obviously, I've used it. So I'll go back to Home Depot and get more. So let's get it in the car, see how it fits. Okay, it's the next day. I went to Home Depot, got more aluminum. And at this point, let's see if I can slide over here. You can see I just put a little clamp in here just to be safe, because I don't have the end cap for the one Zapco to screw into. But you can see the gap with that rough cut piece that I'm going to replace looks good. I got my gap underneath, looks good, and the gap behind looks good as well. So that all looks good. So at this point, I will replace piece number 3. I'll go ahead and get that cut, and then do the same slice, and then get it mounted in there, and then go to the next step. All right, piece number 3 has been replaced with piece number 3A, and as you can see, no holes here. So I just replicated this and fabricated this piece. Again, when I do the other side, I'll bring you along for the cuts and things like that. So now I'm confident that my gaps are going to be good here. Now I've got to figure out how I'm going to do kind of a pocket in here, and then what's going to happen with this piece. This was the top pocket piece that I made for the one Zapco. And as you can see, I removed the cleat where this was catching, right? So I've got to figure out now what I'm going to have to do to modify this piece, and kind of see how the whole thing fits together. And then again, fitting in something here to build kind of a pocket for my upholstery. So I'll give this some thought, and let's see what I come up with. The one Zapco pocket is now back into the shock tower cover. I've removed this bracket. I'm still going to figure out what I'm going to do there. But now I'm going to put this back in the car, just because I don't want to take anything for granted at this point. Make sure everything looks good, it fits, and then the last piece of the puzzle is going to be figuring out how I'm going to fabricate this area here. I have some ideas, but let's get it in the car, make sure it all looks good, and we'll go from there. Okay, got the piece back in the car. I put the end link in for the one Zapco. I just have one bolt holding it in place, and then I've got the changer in there as well. And now you can see it's not the exact same gap here and here. It's within a 16th or whatever, but that is good. I want to be able to maintain as much of the shock tower cover as possible and look like it was intentionally notched out for these pieces. Back behind the changer, what I'm actually thinking is, at least for now, I'll give it some more thought, and I know I'm all about, don't go to the next spot until the next thing, until the current thing is as good as I can get it. It's not a question of it being good or not, but I'm thinking that I'm going to just leave it with nothing back there. When I upholster this, I will put carpet over the entire piece, and then I will steam it and take pressure and basically push the carpet, effectively stretching the carpet back in that corner. The changer goes into that area by 3/8 of an inch, so I don't have to do much. And I think I can basically just get the carpet in there without any issue. So that's going to be the plan. All right, got the piece back out. Now I'm looking at, when it was in there, it was kind of tough. I was just holding things and all that. And this, I'm going to leave this piece in, and these brackets. These brackets actually really strengthen the whole thing up, especially because I cut these two. So the thing is, again, it's still super solid. But now what I'm going to do is the back of the changer comes a little bit closer than I want to this area. So I'll trim this. This was where the screw went for the bracket. Somewhere around here. Here's the bracket. It was a right angle bracket that went in like this, just a little piece of galvanized plumbing strap, and that basically held it to here. So what I'm going to do instead is I'll still reuse this hole, and I'll put another hole right here, and I'll just do a bracket to this backside. So then this is still going to be very, very solid, and the whole thing should be good. So I'll go ahead and do that now, and then do the final fitment, and then should be good at that point to go to the next side. All right, holy cow. All right, so I trimmed this. I added a little cleat just out of that galvanized back strap back here. That keeps this really nice and solid. And then I also, this was a little bit flimsy here. So I added a little cleat with a kind of an offset back there. You can see that, again, just using that galvanized steel strap. So now the whole thing is back to being super solid, and I've got it notched out for the changer. So that is that side done. I'm gonna put it in the car, do one last dry run of everything with the one Zapco link, the changer, get in there and make sure everything looks good with the spacing, all of that, especially up in this corner. That was a little bit wonky, but I think since I trimmed this will be good. And then from there, be able to move on to the other side. Hey, how's it going? It is Mike. On the shock tower covers, I am going to get this passenger side in, put all the parts in, and show you what that looks like and make sure it's 100%. I am going to, I know I talked about walking you through all the changes on the driver's side shock tower to show you everything. It's basically the same kind of work that I did when I initially built those. So there's really nothing crazy there, and it takes me a bit longer to do the work when I am filming. So I will knock that out, and then before this video is concluded, I'll show you both sides, and we'll be able to check the box and say, okay, shock tower covers are done, changes fit, everything is really good. Then that'll wrap this video up, and then the next video is going to be finally these side panels. I really am looking forward to getting these things, especially being able to get them to where like the fleece is on them. I've got the skeleton built, we'll put the fleece on, and then as my buddy Joe said, start slinging some fiberglass and get these things done. And then from there, that the trunk is trimmed out. Then it's going to be a matter of going back through things and going into more detail, where I'll be doing like painting the Zapcos and things like that. So, all right, so with that, let me go ahead and get this passenger shock tower cover installed with all the parts, and let's take a look and make sure it is 100%. Okay, passenger side is back together. And again, see the gap that I have there, kind of going down here, trying to keep it pretty consistent. When the carpet is in there, again, I'm just gonna push the carpet in as much as I have to be able to fit the changer, and then the cable will come through the carpet as well. You'll see more of that when we get to the upholstery stage. I also put the floor in. I've removed the millbirds and all that stuff just because I want to triple check clearances, my gaps there. I built myself a very sophisticated gauge. It's a piece of aluminum that I use to double check all my gaps. I want 1/8 of an inch. So you can see the gap between the zebra wood and the shock tower cover, for example, is exactly 1/8 of an inch on both sides. And as I do, you know, I'm kind of wrestling around with things. I had that shock tower cover in and out 20 times probably. I want to make sure everything is still lining up. So, all right, so this side is good. We're 100%. The back of the changer is on there. The problem is solved. So now at this point, I'm going to do the driver's side. And again, I'll only record things that are material. I'm not going to walk you through the whole process so that I can get this knocked out and then get over to these side panel covers. All right, working on the driver's side. I just want to show this. You can see barely that line that I drew right there on the cleat number 1. And that is the same exact measurement as what I have over on this side, obviously to keep them symmetrical. And before I cut it, I made that mark, measured it out, laid it out, and then just did a visual to make sure it's good. Because if you recall, that piece number 1, I'm not going to use. I'm going to scrap that, and I'm going to build a new piece because I don't want to have those screw holes visible. So now I can take it out, make that piece number 1, and then cut the other 2 pieces, and I should be able to pop it back in, put everything back in place, the one Zapco end up here, the millbird floor, and just make sure everything's 100%. All my spacing is good. Again, if there's anything material that I find as I'm doing that, I'll be sure to add that to this video. But stand by, let's get this thing cut, and then I'll have to put the back of the changer on. Obviously, that changer has the back and that one does not. So, all right, let me continue on and I'll show you what I get to. All right, I figured I couldn't do a video without showing something. This is pretty sketchy, and I want to show this because you guys always see me doing things, you know, really taking my time and doing it the proper way, and that's what I try to do, as I am Precision Mike, right, that I call myself. So, but here I need to cut these straps. I did this on the other one, and they're curved, right? There's no, I can't put them on any kind of a saw that I own, at least, to be able to cut them. So I have to do it freehand with a jigsaw like this, right? And it's a little bit sketchy. So this would be an example. Again, I want to show you guys the good, the bad, the ugly, all of that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll cut one of these out just to show you how I do this. Again, being really careful that the saw doesn't get caught up on anything. That's another reason I flushed in the hardware, right? So if I have to do stuff like this, I don't have a problem. And also I'm running it at a really low speed. So let's go ahead and cut this one. All right, that one is cut through. You can see it right there. And that's basically, I'll do the same thing on the other side, nice and slow, take my time, and that'll be cut. So let me go ahead and do that, and then I'll get the other, the two pieces cut that I need to cut, and then I need to make that #1 bar from scratch. All right, I got both straps cut. As you can see, they're the other two. And then I'll go in with a file and just clean up the edge, but it's quite a clean cut, as you can see. I just used the existing piece of flat bar as my guide. All right, let me show you at least part of this. So this is the new piece #1, and as you can see, I need to cut that amount out. So once again, I'm gonna use the jigsaw, slow speed, and I've got some WD-40 on the blade. I'll put a little bit more on because I'm gonna do the long cut first. And this too is pretty sketchy. So I've got my, just a workbench here, and I've got a hole cut in it. This allows me to get kind of things like this to be able to get it right up to this edge like this. So let me show you how I'll do this. Basically it. The cool thing about this piece of wood, if you notice, there's all kinds of cuts in it. I just replaced the piece of wood when it's totally shot, and I don't mind if I go into it. I'd rather be safe and not to have this hanging off the edge like this, flopping around, and potentially the saw gets loose. I'd rather have it right up like this, work it, and then I just kind of sneak it out that way. So, all right, let me go ahead and get this one cut and ready to go. All right, I've got the new #1 piece cut. I've got my holes lined up and re-drilled and countersunk. And as you can see, I've got the cut made, but it's not perfect. So this, I'll take a file with a straight edge. I showed that earlier in the video, and then just clean up that edge and make sure it's perfectly straight. Use my file, and now you can see that's nice and straight. Especially when you consider there's going to be carpet going over it that's 1/8 of an inch thick. You're never going to see any kind of flaws, but again, I want to be accurate. All right, now I will be able to add this piece back to the shock tower cover, and I'll get the other two pieces trimmed. Okay, I got both pieces cut, and again, I'm going to take a square and a file and make sure these are perfectly square. All right, I got the back on the changer, and I've got the panel set to go in the car, so let's give it a test fit, see how it looks. I do still have to modify the pocket. I'm calling it for the one Zapco, which is these two pieces here. And I have to add a cleat for the #1 piece in the shock tower cover, but I want to test fit it and make sure it's all good. All right, there's our gap, and everything looks good. It looks very symmetrical compared to the other side. So now I'll pull everything back out and deal with the Zapco pocket. And then again, I'll add a screw right on the top of the #1 piece that I cut, because otherwise it's kind of flimsy and it'll bend when I go to upholster it. I am officially unstuck. So everything came out great on this side. Again, that's the notch out. On the other side, same thing. You can see the same thing there. So at this point, I am done with getting the changers to fit. That was, I don't know how many hours of work, but a decent amount of work to get myself out of the jam that I was in. It wasn't a big deal. I know I'd come up with something, but I had to just grab some tools and get to work and start doing it. So that is going to close out this video. I apologize for the delay in getting out CarMiZa videos. It's, again, I can make excuses, but I really need to roll my sleeves up and get to work. In the next video, we are going to make some progress, hopefully build these things in entirety in the side panels. I'm pretty much sick of hearing myself talk about it. It's time to get those going. So thank you very much for watching. I certainly appreciate it. If you have not yet, please subscribe, tell your friends, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you very much. Take care.